東京フェスティバルオブモジュラー2020、今年はオンラインという形で開催させていただきます。よろしくお願いします。はい、今年はですね、6つの、インタビューと、あとその他、ライブなどを行っていきます。でまずですね、紹介させていただきたいのが東京フェスティバルオブモジュラーの、メンバーこの4人で運営しているですが、まずは、自己紹介のほかさせていただきます。
はい、それでは私の方から自己紹介いたします。TFoM の主催者の一人、HATAKEN です。TFoM はご存知の通り、今年皆さんもご存知のコロナによってですね、緊急事態宣言の中で中止を決めたわけなんですけれども、TFoM はやはり皆さんが集まって海外からのスポンサーを迎えて、でそれで、TFoM の醍醐味が意義が果たせるのかなと思っています。お客様とメーカー、デベロッパー、そしてディーラー、販売店の方とか、そしてあとアーティストとユーザーの人たちが、みんなコミュニケーションを持てる場所として万年に1回やってるわけなんですけれども、今年はやはり集まれるそれができないのであれば中止だなということだけは決めてしまったんですけれども、今までにですねずっと当初から最初の2013年からやってるんですけれども、2013年の頃から TFoM を応援してくれているメーカーの方ですとか、あとは、何回も来てくれているリチャード・ディバインさんとか、そういう方々にインタビューをしていますので、今回はそういう方々にコロナの中での状況とか、今後のこと、今までの昔のこととかを聞いていますので、そこら辺のインタビューをですね皆さんと一緒に、掘り下げていけたらなと思っています。
I'm Dave Skipper, organizer, TFoM. We love modular synths because they are uniquely customizable. You can make your own system and use them for making any sounds, any music you want. And it's that flexibility that's and diversity that we always wanted to introduce to people since the start of TFoM. And it's grown over these years since 2013 more than we expected. And the idea is the same now as it was at the beginning, just to introduce people to modular music, modular artists, modular makers, and just to bring people together. So thank you for being part of it.
Hello everyone, I'm Roberto. For me this is going to be the third edition of TFoM since I was introduced into the team 3 years ago. This year we put together for you some very interesting interview by some of the most influential makers and artists in the modular world. Stay with us and enjoy the show.
はい、それでは最後にですね、本日司会を務めさせていただきます竹内です。日頃ですね、このメンバーで、フェスティバルの方を運営させていただいてます。で本日は、この4名のほかに、クロックフェイスモジュラーさん、あとは、FiveG の、方、あとミーティングオブモジュラーで、いつも解説のを行っていただいている、Z ハイパー氏など、参加いただいて、このフェスティバルオンラインという形でお届けしたいと思っています。では、ご覧ください。はい、それではですね、まずはじめに TFoM2013 年の第1回目の時から参加していただいているメイクノイズの、実際に来ていただいた、トニー・ローランドさんの、インタビューを、用意させていただいてます。で、それにあたってなんですけれども、まず、このディスカッション参加していただく、方3名ですね。皆さんですね、メイクノイズの機材を、に詳しくて、ショップの方は、初期から扱われていて、で、例えば、ユーザーガイドの制作日本版のものですねに携わられていたり、いろんなことをされている詳しい方3人にお越しいただきました。じゃあまず、一番こちらの方から、はい、クロックフェイスモジュラーの社長Rintaroさんです。
よろしくお願いします。Rintaroです。
こちらが、 毎月ミーティングオブモジュラーで、機材解説を行ってくださっている、Z ハイパージです。
よろしくお願いします。
で、最後に、FiveG の平石、
はい、よろしくお願いします。
ではこれからよろしくお願いします。
はい、
はい、では、メイクノイズの、トニー・ローランドさんにお話を伺います。メイクノイズはといえば、アメリカの代表的なモジュラーシンセメーカーで、このメーカーが、ユーラックの普及というか、広まったきっかけにもなったメーカーなんじゃないかなと思いますけど、皆さん印象とかってどんな感じですか？
そうですね、メイクノイズがそのできる前は結構やっぱりドイプファーっていう、そのユーロラックの企画をほとんど初めて、作ったようなメーカーなんですけど、そこがすごい、そこ選択肢としてはそことプラス何社かっていうような感じだったんですけど、メイクノイズがすごいそこのそれまでのそのドイプファーがやってたような方向性とはちょっと違うようなものをすごいいろいろ出してきて、それがすごい斬新で、なんだこれっていう風にみんななって結構盛り上がってきたっていうのは多分あったと思います。はい。
はい、インタビューの中ではですね、メイクノイズの、スタートからどんな感じでこう、モジュラーの世界で、人気を得ていったかっていうところですとか、例えばもう、コロナの影響とかそういうリアルなところもお話を伺ってます。それではどうぞ。
What do you find particularly fulfilling about being a modular maker, designer, innovator?
Well, it's changed a lot over the years. Like I said, initially it was more of a personal pursuit that developed into a business because of interest from people outside. So mainly in the United States, Sean Cleary over at Analog Haven, and then over in Europe, Andreas Schneider just got in touch and said, hey, we see the stuff you're making. We want to buy some, make more. And so it was very organic. So initially it was something I was just doing because I wanted to do it. And because I felt like there was a few things that Dieter Doper hadn't yet made. I mean, at that time, the Doper system was king. And really, Dieter had made pretty much anything and everything you could possibly need to build a modular synthesizer. But folks such as myself or Scott Yeager kind of saw a few things that Dieter hadn't done. And so we were digging into those, little nooks and crannies there. I never expected to develop my own system until much later. So yeah, early on it was personal satisfaction, and then the money coming in from the dealers helped fund further development. These days it's a little different. These days it's fun having a team. For example, a team of folks that I work with at Make Noise, team of beta testers out in the field. It's just fun to work with people and collaborate and build something bigger than I could have thought of on my own, and more exciting than I could have thought of on my own.
On the other side, what would you say is one of the main challenges of being a modular company?
Well, I say that, initially, again, it changed over the years. Initially, everything was so small. It was hard to get quotes. I had to beg to get quotes on stuff. Just pastoring people. It was hard to get quotes. It was hard to acquire materials. It was hard to get people to help you build. All of that stuff was hard. As your quantities increase, that stuff gets easier. Suddenly, when you're spending, several $1,000s a year with a company, you perk up. They perk up when they hear your name, like, oh, this company's worth this much money to us, and we better answer their phone call. So that gets a little easier. But on the flip side, you're also managing a lot more too. So there's a lot more at stake, people's livelihoods. We're a small company, like I said, anywhere between 10 and 15 people at any given time. But still, I think about that a lot. These 10 or 15 people rely on decisions that I make, to do things like pay their rent, put food on the table, or maybe they're trying to buy a house. Maybe they got a kid they're trying to put through school. All those things start weighing a little more heavily on the choices that you make. And then additionally, because the market's grown, which allows us to sell more stuff, we also have a lot more competition today than we did, when you look back like 2008, there's like 10 or 15 companies making modular synthesizers, and now there's over 200. So trying to come up with things that people haven't done yet, or trying to come up with how to do something better than someone else did it, it's definitely getting harder.
Coming a bit more up to date, this year with COVID has been really strange and extraordinary and challenging in many ways all over the world. Can you tell us a little bit how things have affected Make Noise this year in 2020?
Yeah. So we really didn't close much. We did close for 2 weeks really early on at the request of our governor. And it was kind of funny thinking back to that. The thought was, we'll close for a couple of weeks, let this pass. And then at a certain point, it kind of became obvious that it wasn't going to pass very quickly. So the governor issued guidelines for running businesses. And so after 2 or 3 weeks, we decided to reopen again. We were able to pay everyone for the entire time. So nobody went on unemployment. Everybody was still getting paid the entire time. And when we reopened, it was just more a thing of following some of these guidelines. So, for example, we had to have fewer people on the production floor. Anyone who can work from home is working from home, obviously. So things like that changed the vibe of the shop, and not really to my liking. Having people around you is a good thing for generating good ideas, I think. So yeah, that's the big thing. That, and just the same struggles that everyone has, which is just there's a lot of parts that are not being made as quickly because everybody's taking these measures. So things are slowing down. Getting parts is taking a little longer, and it just takes a little longer to build stuff. Everything's still moving, it's just moving a little slower.
Yeah, and thinking of a hopefully post-COVID world, what do you think the future of Eurorack could look like?
I feel like it's going to maybe continue to grow in the kind of fun way that it is, which is a lot of smaller companies doing strange things that bigger companies wouldn't want to take the risk to do. And I feel like the bigger companies are going to get back to doing the thing that they do, making workstations. Now, that said, Roland definitely has the modular market on their mind more as they develop new products, because I see more and more CBIO on devices that wouldn't have had CBIO on them 10 years ago. Arturia, same thing. You see almost any controller they make has CBIO on it now, and like lots of it, which is just kind of incredible. We've really, if nothing else, that change alone is really great, because suddenly all this stuff is going to be working together, whereas it used to be, well, that's a really cool synth that Roland did, but it's MIDI only. Now they're putting some other things on there that I think is a nod to like saying, hey, we know this exists. We want our stuff to work with your stuff. It's nice. Korg does it too. They put the CB stuff on everything. It's a positive development, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Couple more questions to finish off. What things or people or experiences from outside the world of modular inspire you as a modular designer and user?
There's some specific works from Francis Picabia that have definitely informed my the way I develop user interface. In general, I love art. I love going to museums, which is something I'm missing a little bit this year. While I love modular synthesizers, I'm not. I listen to all types of music. So, and my inspiration for modules sometimes comes from music that's far outside of the modular realm. So I'm not a selective listener. It's it's anything that interests me, I'm digging into it. It doesn't really matter when it was made, who made it, how it was made. If it's made on a laptop, I'm still interested. The whole thing with like the phonogene and the morphogene was drawing on music concrete, which is not music made with modular synthesizers. But then it was this idea that, well, hey, maybe we could apply some of these techniques to a modular synthesizer. And, like someone like Curtis Rhodes, he has a lot of really interesting techniques, and none of them were really being explored in the modular. So doing something like the phonogene and morphogene brings some of those musical processes into the modular. I mean, not 100%, but it definitely brings some of it in there. And it definitely changes the way you think. I mean, I've found that modular has influenced how I think about really any kind of music production. I mean, even using a DAW, it totally changes how I use a DAW.
Finally, do you have any thoughts for us at TFoM and the people here in Japan, what we can do to help advance the modular scene into the future?
Well, I mean, I think I only went to the first one, but it seemed very open and receptive, which I liked. Like, come on in and learn, see some of these artists perform, talk to some of the people that make the things, learn about them. I feel like you all did a really good job of making a good environment. And I mean, if you just keep doing that, I mean, that's the most important thing.
はい、ということで、そうですね、いろんな話伺いましたけれども、お店の方とかではなんか、お客さんとかにも変化とかってありましたか？
そうですね、やっぱり、皆さん機材と向き合う時間がよりできたのかなという印象もありまして、それとインタビューでも言われていた通り、各メーカー FiveG と連携したようなで、そういうものが増えてきているので、メイクノイズその他ユーロラック、これから始めてみたいという方も増えておりますし、ここからもっと突き進めていきたいって、そういうふうに皆さん興味がどんどん湧いてきている時間なのかなと思っておりますね。
絶対パー氏は、
はい、メイクノイズが最初にトニーが日本に来た2013年の最初の TFoM、 その時にも会場にいたので、もうあれから7年も経つのかっていう。
早いですね。
早いな、そしてトニーも昔見たのはもっとエネルギッシュだったのが今だいぶマイルドになってて、
そうですね、
そりゃ7年経つわなって感じで、
ね、チームも大きくなって、やっぱり昔は、インタビューでも言ってたけど、そのガレージメーカーモロガレージメーカーみたいな感じで、最初はね、モッドでミックスっていうメイクノイズのモジュールがあるんですけど、それのプロトタイプみたいなのが多分最初だったと思うんですけど、その時は本当、別のインタビューかなんかで自分のベッドルームで作ってたっていうようなことを言ってたんで、今は、もうチームでね、やるのが楽しいっていう、
15人とかっていう社員
そうですよね、
生活も考えてる
では結構やっぱりそのリリースを見てもデジタルのものとかがすごい増えてるから、もともとそのメイクノイズってその西海岸、いわゆるブックラーとかサージとか、今まであんまり普通の人が目をつけていなかったようなシンセを現代風に解釈して、それがすごいフレッシュだったから、広く認知されてきたんですけど、そこに結構デジタルをすごいもっといろいろな要素、面白さを足してくるようになったんで、結構ね、いろいろな人とコラボレーションしてやっていくっていう方向性になったのも、それと無縁じゃないかなっていう感じですかね。はいね、なんかだから結構複雑なものも最近はね、モーフォジンとか、そういうものは結構複雑なものも多いし、結構またアナログのモジュールとかもね、いろいろ出してほしいとは思ってるんですけど、また来年もいろいろ期待したいと思います。
確かにラインナップ幅広いから次の製品とか出るの楽しみ。
そうですね、結構本人はやっぱりその自分たちのシステムを使ってほしいっていう思いも結構あったり、トニーは結構よく言っているような気がしますけどね。そのメイクノイズ で組み合わせるとすごい効果が出るんだよみたいなことはよく言ってますよね、パッチングって結構組み合わせだから、
シェアードシステムみたいな感じで、
そうですね、はい、
メイクノイズのモジュールをいっぱい買ってるユーザーとかもいると思うんですけど、
そうですね、結構、まあでもメイクノイズだけっていう人はそこまでいないですけどね、でもやっぱりなんか定番みたいな、マスはやっぱり入れたいとか、そういう感じかな、
でも買ってくと気がつくとあれシェアードシステムまであと2モジュールでいっちゃうぞっていう
なるほどなるほど、
実は結果的に
別に集めるつもりなかったけど、あれこれあと2個3個でビンゴだなみたいなのがよくある気がする。最初からシェアード買っとけばよかったっていう、
結構合いそうだなと思って自分で集めてると結構なんか
結果的にシェアードになってっててメイクノイズすごいって1個買うと他のを使いたくなる感じのそ
れはありますよねやっぱ、
システムの構成自体が本当に出来がいいですね。
結構パフォーマンス向きにねこう 6U っていう、2段ぐらいのサイズで収まるようにいつもシステムを作ってるから、
カルテジアンとかテープ&マイクロサウンドみたいな1段のやつもやっぱりシステムコンクリート目的であったりシンサイズ目的であったり1個の向きをきちんと考えながらシステムが組まれているので、そういうなんかユーザーの目線を常に考えているっていうのは、そことプラスアルファでさっきおっしゃっていたようなマスとかみたいな、どこのラックに入れてもきちんと機能してくれる、いつでもちゃんと自分に寄り添ってくれるってそういうモジュールも両方出しているっていうのがやはりメイクノイズすごいところだなって。
マスとかロングセラーって
今でも全然ねよく売れる商品の一つですね。
マスはこの間シリアルナンバー1万本を突破していて驚きました。そう結構そう1万何千とかになってるかな。だ
からメイクノイズはねシリアル番号がだいたい生産台数ぐらいになってるんですけど、1万何台1万2万はいってないけどそれぐらい売れてます。今でもそうじゃあ10年ぐらい作っててずっと売れてて、定番ですごい面白いモジュールなんですけどね、
パネルのデザインぐらいしかね変わらずに、それは一回ありましたね。
だからデザインもすごい最初見た時はびっくりしたってあんなになんかやんちゃなデザインなかなかないなみたいな、楽器で
なんか分かりにくいなと思って
確かにどう
ですかね。
いやもう自分は結構だから中身がすごいあれだけ面白くてかっこいいデザインだったから、
デザインかっこい
いなみたいな思いましたけど、すごい
もう慣れちゃったもんフォントにもそんなに驚くことはなくなった。い
やなんかあれで見かけだけかっこよくて中があんまいけてなかったら嫌だけど、なんか本当にいいモジュールだからなんかデザインもいいなって
納得のデザインっていうなるほど感が
でもその現代美術のアーティストの影響を受けてるっていうのは知らなかったですけどね、インターフェースで。
何ですかダダイズムとかなんかそれ関連
の人なんですかね。いろいろみんな教養がありますね。なんかそれで、トニーは結構スケートとかもね確かあれ趣味でよくやってるんで、そういろんななんかやっぱ才能っていうかセンスを持ってるんだろうなみたいな。
デザインのなんか背景にはそういうバックグラウンドが
いろんな多分そういう
影響を受けてるとか、
音楽もねいろいろ何でも聴くみたいなことも言ってたし、
インタビューで言ってましたね。
そういうのも出てくるものと無関係じゃないんじゃないかなって思います。
はい、それでは以上、メイクノイズのトリー・ローランドさんのインタビューでした。では次は、FoM2020 の、ダン・グリーンさんのインタビューです。FoM2020 ってメーカーは、メイクノイズと同じ US のメーカーなんですけれども、メイクノイズとはまた違った特徴的なモジュールを数多く、安定的に、リリースされているメーカーです。でそうですね FoM2020 なんですけれども、クロックフェイスのリンタロさんどんな印象ですかね。
そうです。うちがオープンした2014年から、当初から取り扱っているメーカーの一つなんですけど、自分もすごい、当初多分10ちょっとのメーカーから始めたんですけど、やっぱりそのいろんなメーカーがある中でも FoM2020 っていうのはすごいその時から面白くて、 その時はですね、今は結構そのサンプラーとか、オシレーターとか、デジタル系のそういう音に関したモジュールを、いろいろ出してますけど、最初に出してた時はですね、結構そのクロックをいかに変調するかとか、あとそのクロックに同期したエンベロープや LF を出すっていうの、当時あんまりなかったんで、そういうものを出してたりとかいうのが、ですね、すごい自分には斬新だったんですね。メイクノイズとかはやっぱり逆に参照するアイデアの元がちょっと感じられる、それも素晴らしいんだけど、参照してるアイデアの元があって、そこに自分たちのツイストをかけていくような開発製品が多いなと思ってて、で 4MS っていうのはなんかちょっともっとオリジナリティがあるっていうか、その最初に出したこのクロックのディバイダー、そのクロックディバイダーが2種類あって、そのローテーティングクロックディバイダーっていう、ものが、4MS で最初に出したユーロラックのモジュールなんですけど、あとその SCM シャッフリングクロックマルチプライヤーっていうモジュールがあって、その2つは結構自分は触っててすごい衝撃的に面白かったっていうか、そういうなんかリズムを作るためだけのその小さいモジュールなんだけど、すごいユニークなあれで、すごいいいメーカーだなと思って始めたっていう感じですかね。
確かに、クロックフェイスさんで私も個人的に4MS のモジュール大量に買って
ありがとうございます。
今だにもちろん使ってます。
すごい操作性もね、いいメーカーだと思いますね。結構発想が面白いんで、なんかインタビューでもそういうなんかそういうなんていうのかな、そういう発想のコツっていうか、どういう人なんだろうっていうところもちょっと興味あるかなっていう感じですね。はい。
なんかそのクロック系からまたちょっと時代が
そうですね、はい、今はまた彼らも全然違うデジタルオシレーターとかもいっぱい出してたりもするんで、今後の話とかもすごい興味があります。はい、
そうですね。元をたどればもともとはそのクロック関連の前は、
そうですね。
変わったものとかも
そう、なんかペダル、もともとモジュールをやる前は、ペダル、ギターペダルとかのエフェクト、でも多分自分はあんまり触ったこととかないです。多分相当変わったペダルとかを出してたっていうふうに聞いてますけど、そこら辺も多分インタビューで聞いてくれてると思います。
そうですね。じゃあデイブ、how do you think about OMS module?
One thing we love about the modular community is even the big modular companies are actually very small companies, so we can get to know the designers and it's very friendly. So Dan Green, who runs 4MS company, has been a big supporter of TFoM for many years. He's come out 4 times, I think, himself. And so it was really nice to interview him and catch up and get a little bit more insight. So enjoy the interview.
Cool. I know before you got into making modules, you were making pedals as 4MS. Can you tell us just a bit about why and how that developed into starting making modules?
Yeah, so I mean, the pedals, like originally I played guitar for a very short time in a very noisy band that no one really liked. And, you know, I started getting pedals and eventually just put the guitar down and just played the pedals because it was way more fun. And it's kind of what I wanted to be doing anyways. And then that sort of led to, like, you show up to a gig and you have just like a milk crate full of pedals and another one full of power supplies, and then you got to set everything up, you know, or you have a pedal board and it's huge, but I'm always changing things around, so that never stayed set, you know. And eventually, so we did that for a while, and then we started making these switching matrix things called the bend matrix, and it, like, you could plug pedals into it. It had 12 jacks plus more duplicates, and you could plug all your pedals into it and then route them using a button grid, you know, inputs to outputs, or double them up, and then you could save a routing pattern, and then you could sequence the routing patterns, and you could like MIDI control the routing patterns, and then like do all these crazy things where, yeah, it's just sending all the effects to each other and all kinds of crazy noisy stuff. So that was kind of like a attempt at like meta, working on the meta patch idea. It wasn't a very successful thing. Like not many people bought it because I don't think anyone understood it, but I think it was like, it got a lot of attention online because it looks cool. It's like, what is that? It's like a pinball machine for your effect pedals or something. It's like, it's kind of like, meme friendly, but not really like a product that you actually see in person very much. And then we started making like giant pre-patched, like, yeah, literally this big, like 21 inch, like 3/4 of a meter square, and putting a bunch of effects in them, and then having all these switches to change the routing configurations, and a bunch of jacks in the back where you could patch. So a semi-modular system like that. We made a few of those, and just kind of like, where do you go from there? There was no you can't grow much big. You can't carry something much bigger than this, and we've already made the meta. So yeah, seeing in like late 2008. 2009, I think we first got a modular system in the shop from Josh at Big City Music. He doesn't work there anymore, I don't believe, but he sent us a system, just try it out. Like we sold them pedals to their shop, and they were like, hey, you should make modules. It's like, well, I don't know how they all, how would it be compatible? I'd have to kind of see it. And he's like, oh, I'll send you a system. So we got it, and just some Dofer modules and 2 rows, not even all the way full, just was like, this is what I've been trying to do. It's compact, and like everything has a precise function, more or less. And yeah, so we just started converting pedals over, which doesn't work very well, but it got us like in the game, where we're like, we have modules now. And so we started making modules that did things that I couldn't figure out how to do with the Dofer system. Like odd clock signatures was the first kind of thing we went into. Polyrhythms and stuff, which is like kind of hard to patch without getting a lot of modules. But we just did a real simple, one little module, 4 HP, you can have polyrhythms. It was the RCD. That was our first like kind of real modular module. So yeah, and that the rest is history.
Cool. What do you find particularly fulfilling about designing and making modules?
Oh wow, it's my passion. I like the exploration of having an idea, seeing where that idea takes you when you make it, and then getting to like reiterate on that, and then that gives you new ideas. So then you try new things and then see, and just being able to pursue like a dream is basically what it is. You dream up a thing, and then you get to make it. And if it's not working out like you thought it was, because a lot of times your dreams not that cool in real life, and then you can change it, and then you can try something else, and then you can keep pursuing this like idea, and hopefully one day it becomes something that other people will want to use. That's the idea. That's actually the kind of the payoff part, when you see someone else using a thing that you got excited about years ago and started making and building and figure out how to make it a real thing, and then you see someone else using it and they're like having fun with it and making cool music and doing things you didn't even think were possible to do on it. Like that's like the holy grail of like, wow, I made something cool. Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the Japanese market?
Yeah. Let's see. Gosh, I don't know when we started selling to Japan but Clockface has been our main, we've sold through Clockface as like our main dealer there for the Eurek modules. And yeah, it's been great. Coming when, I was, of all the meets that didn't happen, like Tokyo Festival was like sad. Because I also enjoy, like, it's not the biggest festival, but I really enjoy being there and just seeing the people. Like, I feel like people are so genuinely excited about the modules are just making crazy music in a way that I don't see it other places when we go to these synth meets, where we used to go to these synth meets, and I think there's a certain excitement that's taken for granted in other places that I really liked seeing at the Tokyo Festival. So and that's always been a thing, that I really appreciate about it. I feel like a lot of our people that are using our stuff, at least the people that I run into or email or bump into at the meets, are like really excited about it and like really like passionate about it, and that's pretty cool to see.
Cool. So yeah, obviously we're doing this interview this year, everything online. Nobody can fly into Japan.
Nope.
How has COVID affected FoM2020 operations and plans this year?
Yeah, well, we've scrambled to like figure out what to do, because like it said, there's like 7 to 9 people, and we're used to all coming here and working. We can't do that now. So we figured out ways to take shifts and brought equipment home, and bought duplicate sets of equipment people could take home. And then some of the stuff can be done online, but then there's like all this equipment and meters and scopes, so figuring all that out's been a challenge, but everyone's been great. Like on our team's like super flexible. Everyone's just figured out what they need to do and how to do it, and ask for what they need, and we've made it happen. It's been like surprisingly not too stressful, but it is like still getting used to this, like, we don't get to see each other all the time, So we take shifts, and we there's a limit to people in here at a time, and it's a pretty large space, but we just try and minimize any potential overlap of time as much as possible, and work from home as much as possible. So we were lucky enough, like at first things, it's like, what's going to happen is, are these people still going to like ship things to us, so we can build stuff, or like we're going to be able to ship things overseas still, so, but yeah, you can still ship stuff overseas now. So it hasn't really, the world hasn't totally crashed, at least the modular world. And we had we had 2 product releases this year. So that's really awesome. Cause that could have been really bad if like, the world, like we spent all this time making these things and then like can't ship them anywhere. Like, so, but it's been great. Yeah. We had a good year. So surprisingly, it was like kind of scary at first, but then we had the Ensemble Oscillator, which like really awesome thing. And I'm glad like the COVID didn't kill it or mean that people couldn't use it, because we've been shipping them all over the place and they're great. And then the percussion interface, and that's been awesome too. It just brand new, but that's a fun one too. So yeah, we're grateful. We're still open and in business and doing the best we can to keep our keep everything organized a little bit.
Slightly different kind of question. What things or people or experiences from outside the world of modular inspire you as a designer or a user?
Well, one of the things we're working on, I think I even mentioned this in another interview, but is a kid-friendly synthesizer. So, and I have a 2-year-old at home, so that's definitely an inspiration. I mean, just watching him put everything in his mouth. I mean, like, okay, so if I was going to make a synthesizer, it has to be able to fit in a toddler's mouth and not hurt them, or baby's mouth when they're younger, especially. So, so that's been a thought. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to just make like just kids' toys, So, kind of like, what would where's the intersection of what adults like and like kids like? And it's like, it's lights and being able to touch things, Patch Kit was a little hard, but so yeah, there's a non-URX project I'm working on that's like touch and light and sound, and it kind of appeals to that kid brain of yourself. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's super fun. Yeah.
Lastly, just to finish off, do you have any thoughts for us here in Japan and TFoM, how we can help advance the modular scene into the future.
Keep making music. That's the whole point. And you know, like with this kind of like separation that we have now is we just need to communicate better and more and use, you know, it's so great we have online, all these tools just everywhere because now we can't. So yeah, send us an email, send us whatever, use our Facebook or whatever. And if you have ideas about stuff or, you know, share what you're making or tag us in your post or whatever. Yeah, just try and keep it alive.
FoMS のダン・グリーンさんでした。印象どうでしたかね。
やっぱり子供のシンセっていうのがすごいダンらしくてすごい面白そうだし楽しみですね。すごい、結構なんだろう 4MS そっか見えるかな
この辺。
あ、そうですね。
4MS エリアですね。
ここ見えたりします。まあこういう結構カラフルなパネルとかでこれは今ちょっと光ってないですけどこの LED が結構チカチカしたりしてすごいカラフルな色を出したりするんですよね。でなんでまあそういうなんかすごいチカチカしたものとかがすごい多分ダンはすごい好きでなんかそういうところも含めてなんかそれで結構斬新な子どものシンセ多分彼はすごい考えてくれると思うんですごい期待しちゃいますね。なんかどういうものを考えてるのかなっていうのを単純に見てみたいみたいな。
確かになんかチカチカ
そうチカチカする結構カラフルで、結構それが逆に賛否両論だったりするんですけど
確かに持ってよ
ごめんなさいちょっとチカチカさせて
4MS って確かにこの LED めっちゃ眩しい系モジュールとしては最初期からある
まあこういう感じでね、
この
しかもこの高輝度を調整できるんですよねモジュールによっては。
そうできるのも
裏側で
まあこういう感じでこうすごい結構チカチカ
じゃんじゃんバリバリ感
まあこういうふうにあんまりこんなにチカチカするモジュールあんまりなかったんで、昔はねなんかそういうチカチカなイメージがあってあとそのさっきダンが言ってたベンドマトリックスっていう画像を見ていただいてると思いますけど、あれもすごいギンギンな感じででもなんかちょっと可愛くて、そうでなんか子供を口に含んでも大丈夫な素材で撮るって言ってたのがすごいなんかダンらしいなっていう、そういうところから結構考えるっていうのは面白いなと思いました。
なんかインタビュー内容もこうプロダクトもなんか人間味あふれる感じが
出てますね。やっぱり、やっぱりすごいシンセのデザインが好きなんだなっていう感じですかね。はい、こんなところですかね。
はい、じゃあ、以上 4MS のダン・グリーンさんのインタビューでした。はい、次はマレッコの、インタビューです。マレッコはもう2年目から、TFoM 参加していただいてましたよね。
そうですね、確かうちクロックフェイスでも、取り扱い始めたのは確かその来た後に、あったし、始めようかなっていうことで始めたんですけど、確か最初の頃はマレッコっていうとですねウィアードっていう、マレッコって、もうちょっと元の話をすると、4MS とかメイクノイズとかで割と同世代ぐらいの、メーカーなんですけど最初どういうモジュールを出してきたかっていうとウィアードっていう、そこまでっていうか、シンセ好きでもあんまり知らないと思うんですけどウィアードっていうですねいわゆる西海岸系のシンセがあってもともとのフォーマットは 4U、5U かなあれ
4多分ね
ちょっと
3U じゃないし 5U でもない 4U ぐらいの
4か5か忘れちゃったんですけど、そのちょっと大きめのサイズの西海岸シンセの、メーカーがあって、ほとんどカスタムメイドの、すごい小さいメーカーなんですけどそこのモジュールをユーロラックにして出しているのが、最初だったんですよね。結構それで結構何種類もラインを出してて結構そういうメーカーなのかなと思ってたら始めてたら結構その後にまたですねボルテージブロックっていうやつ名前のちょっとデジタル系のシーケンサーですねあとバリゲートっていうやつとか結構ちょっとまた違ったもうちょっと なんていうか近代的なモジュールとかも出し始めて、まあ、今でも結構人気があるメーカーっていう感じですかね。はい、でもともとペダルもやってたっていうメーカーなので、まあ、さっきの 4MS と結構歴史的にも似た感じのメーカーだと思います。
確かに今おっしゃったように、シーケンサーとか一気に出されてて結構使っている人多いなっていうイメージですね。
あれですごい人気が出たとは思いますね。どうですか？
マレッコはモジュラー始める前にちょうどまだギターを弾いてた頃エフェクター持ってて、
Z ハイパーさんが
自分がそうディレイのエフェクター持ってて、それこそ2014年マレッコが来るって聞いて、そのディレイを自分で分解していじったら音出なくなっちゃって来るっていうからそろそろこれ出なくなっちゃったここのトリマー回しちゃったらさって言ったらドンとタッチってめっちゃキレられてここは絶対触っちゃダメだからってここは触るなってマニュアルに書いてあるだろうって怒られて、で今回
誰に怒られたんですか？
社長の助手に。
社長の助手に。
で今回来日でデモ用にエフェクター同じのの後期のマックス持ってきてるからこれやるよっつって、
めっちゃいいやつ、
エフェクター
めっちゃいいやつですね。
マジでいいのっつってもらって、それを開けてそのトリマーの位置をトレースして自分の怖さを直すっていうそんな思い出ある素敵なメーカーマレッコ。
素敵なメーカーですね。まあまあいいやつ、いいやつ感すごいありますね。
すごいいいやつだし、愉快なやつです。愉快な人が作ってるなっていう。
いつも TFoM ピンクの靴下履いてて全身レズミなので、
遠巻きに見ると耳にマンホールみたいなでっかい
穴がブラックホールが両耳に開いてるみたいな。
パッと見いかついんだけど喋ると割と可愛い感じもある。
インタビューもそこもね注目ですよ。面白い。
Malekko, like 4MS and Make Noise, have been strong supporter of TFoM from very early on, and we love having those guys come out. They're a lot of fun. So yeah, it was good to chat with them on interview again here. So.
はい。
Okay, I'm here with Josh Holley from Malekko Heavy Industry and Dark Place Manufacturing, and Jeannot is sitting next to him, who works for 4MS Company, and we've got Paul Barker as well from Malekko. Now, first of all, I just want to ask, what's your guys' story and connection together? Obviously, Jeannot's with 4MS, so tell me a bit about kind of a potted history of Malekko and Modular and your guys' relationships.
Well, Jeannot has been a spy for 4MS for about, 12 years.
Yeah, something like that.
So we just follow each other around. 4MS, which is basically our, I would say, a sister company.
Yeah.
We lived in Texas together and just really became friends. And the big joke between Jeannot and I is he moved to Portland. 4MS moved to Portland about the same time Malekko did, about 10 years ago. And Jeannot and I are, really very close friends, but we only see each other during the Tokyo Festival of Modular. He lives like 1 mile away from me, but I only see him in Japan.
Malekko, like 4MS, originally making pedals and stuff. How did you get into the modular world?
Well, Malekko, the company, started as a band that Paul and I did. And he, of course, is a bass player, and I am a synth dork. And so we started making pedals kind of by accident. But my passion was always, synthesizers. So we are, in the synth community and really have been, or I have been since the 90s. So it was just kind of a natural transition, really. At the time, we started doing Eurorack modules, which is pretty close to you guys as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
There were like 8 companies doing Eurorack modules. And we got help from Mike Brown from Livewire, he helped us and encouraged us to start making Eurorack modules. And, you know, and didn't we, it just kind of, you know, you fall in love with it. And how exciting. I never ever thought that I would be, you know, making synthesizers.
We can keep going this long, yeah.
And can pay rent.
And a lot of the first Malekko modules were the wired stuff, weren't they?
Yeah, so I've been friends with Grant for a long time, and I had a wired system back when they were like $200 a module, and you could buy them through a dealer, which is hilarious. And you know, to know Grant, it's just, you instantly love the guy, and you know, there's always a joke of like, if you're gonna, you know, call Grant for some reason, you better slate, you know, 2 hours out of your day, because he's pretty chatty and so knowledgeable and just a pleasure to, you know, chat with and stuff. And so I just kind of pitched the idea of doing a Eurorack format with the wired name and his concepts and designs. And to my surprise, he was all into it. And you know, we're still making them to this day. As a matter of fact, I haven't talked to Grant in a long time, up until recently. And, you know, whatever, we're talking about, you know, trying to be creative again. It's a good time.
Cool. And then tell us about Dark Place Manufacturing, how that's evolved, and who's involved in that, what its relationship is to Malekko.
Talking well, Paul?
So Josh and I decided that we wanted to, we were using a third-party manufacturer for a year or so, and we were so fed up with having to do all the rework after the supposed finished products came in. We decided that we wanted to jump in and get our own pick and place machine. And so once we did that, then it was kind of decided, okay, well, we can do third-party manufacturing for other modular and or pedal companies. And so that's kind of what happened with Dark Place.
Yeah, basically.
We decided, to split it off from Malekko. But yeah, we're in the same building.
So, you know, one of the things, like, you know, as Paul was saying, like, we just, you know, our previous manufacturer, just the quality kept going down. So we stopped and we're just like, look, we can do this ourselves. And because we're foolish. And then once we kind of did that, we had the plan wasn't to make other people's products other than Malekko. And then we just got approached, and then it kind of snowballed, and we're, you know, it made us really proud that we were able to help our friends and, you know, especially small manufacturers, like, you know, doing a 50-piece run. You know, most manufacturing facilities would not even return an email. And so, but that became our specialty, was small runs for small companies that we knew what we were doing. So Dark Place hires people who are musicians. They know the products that they're building. And while they may not be the fastest, or at least initially the fastest, they take pride in what they're doing because each product actually means something to them. Mm-hmm. And so we thought that was a lot of value add to Dark Place and the community.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward then from that, I don't know if there's anything you can say about what you've got in the pipeline, future plans, products. Obviously, there'll be stuff you can't say, but
yeah. All I can say is we have a lot of stuff that is really late, it's really pretty unfortunate. We had a lot of stuff just about ready to be released, and then all hell broke loose. And so it was, for example, Malekko Dark Place, it was just me showing up for work for 2-3 months by myself. And, you know, everything as far as development goes was shut down. And I had to do as much as humanly possible to make sure that people had a job to come back to. So where I'm going with that is we have basically there'll be like a waterfall or beaver dam or whatever you want to call it. That once we I think get to a point where we can release one, there will be several follow.
I was going to say, is that the name of a module, Beaver Dam?
It is now.
Oregon Beaver Dam.
It is now. It's the damn beaver.
If there's anything else you want to say or any message you want to shoot out to TFoM and the Japan audience, as we
whatever. I am so sad that we, that we're here right now. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to go to Japan in March, and of course, so it's been kind of hitting me hard lately that we're going to miss the festival Modular, seeing our friends, seeing the community,
Yeah, it's an important part of the year for us. We're realizing how important of a part of the year I think it is.
Yeah,
or it has been.
Like I didn't realize it dawned on me how important it is, and I feel like maybe I took it a little bit for granted. And hopefully next year we will be all together, bigger and better, and telling more stories about the year previous. And now send takoyaki to Jeannot and I, because we are hungry.
Yeah, please.
Noted. Yeah, I think all being well, if we can be back to normal next year, it's going to feel really fresh and exciting for everybody. And I think a new lease of life on all fronts.
はい、マレッコで、ジョッシュ・オーリーさん、ポール・ワーカーさんと、あと友情出演の 4MS、ジャノ・クエンソンさん、3名のインタビューでした。はい、
4MS のジャノは結構さっき4MS の社長のインタビューに出てきたダンもそうですけど、ジャノは結構ね毎年 TFoM
そうですね、もう TFoM に来てくれてお客さんにはおなじみの、
おなじみの
人ですよね。とっても優しい人柄で、
そう、みんな本当あそこら辺の周りはみんないいやつらっていうか、そうですね、今回も仲良さそうにやってて、でなんかウィアードもまたやりたいっていうことを、そのさっき最初にインタビューの前に言ったその昔マレッコは活発にそのユーロラックに持ち込んでた西海岸申請ですね。そのウィアードもまた、そのウィアードをやってるボスのグラント・リヒターとまたいろいろ話しててやりたいって言ってたんで、そこはちょっと楽しみだな。
そうですね、なんか新しいアイディアでやってもらえたらいいですね。
そうですね、逆に確かにもっと新しいものを
考えと合わせて、
やってほしいですね。そしたら本当、
でもガーゴイルは復活してほしい。
模様ね、模様かっこいいよね。
模様つなげるとこう、ガーゴイルがこうモジュールの縁にこう、
そうなんですよね。そのウィアードの復刻したマレッコはみんな横に模様があって、もともとオリジナルもね
ついてたから、
あれが雰囲気出してましたからね。
そう、リヒターになったらなくなっちゃったから。
ああ、確かにそうだね。
そうですね。そうですね、マレッコは本当一番最初の頃から TFoM ずっと応援してくれてて、で途中でローランドのことも紹介してくれてて、 TFoM の会場でね、2014年にあの頃はローランドさんもアイラが出したばっかりの感じで、そこに紹介したんで、その後ローランドさんのあれを一緒に開発したり作ったりっていうのもあったりで、日本のファンにもね多分馴染みがあったりするんじゃないかなと思うんですけど、
HATAKENさんがモジュラー始めたきっかけもマレッコにもらった
そうなんですよね。
エンドースメント
2段の 104HP2 段の全部あれですね、マレッコのその頃のリヒターのやつがもう同じのが何個も入ってたりして、
逆にでもそうなってるシステムとして使いやすいみたいな。
そうですね、エンベレーターとかああいうのが4つぐらい入ってたりとか、もうそれだけでいろいろできる感じで、あとジョイスティックのあれですね、当時マンダラみたいにこうやって動くコントローラーとかあって、全然普通の音がしなくて、最初西海岸系だったんで、
最初がそれってすごいですよね。
確かにアンチオシレーターとか、
そうアンチオシレーター、なんでアンチなのかとか、そういう意味がわからないとか、意味もね書いてあることも分からなかったりしたんで、本当に に最初あれをいただいたことで、僕も最初のね TFoM の時は僕がアナログシンセまだ並べて鍵盤がついたの並べてそっちで頑張るんだみたいな人だったんですけどついにそれで折れてしまって本当にマレッコの女子のおかげでこっちに引き込まれて、はい、
今はモジュールがいっぱいになったん
そうですね。
昔はシンセすげえいっぱいだったけど今はモジュールが
鍵盤のあるシンセみんな売ってしまいました、ほとんどそんな感じで、はい、それを置き換えて、ヴィンテージが新しいユーロラックに変わってしまったっていうぐらい、はい、なんですけど、本当マレッコさんのおかげであって、今もいろいろサポートしてくれてますし、もう TFoM はね、もうどんな内容かも確認しないでいつもお金だけいきなりいくら振り込めばいいっていうようなスタンスなんで本当に頼もしいというかありがたい、
かなり前のめりでありがたいですね。
はい、そうなんですね。だからもう最後は必ず参加してくれるだろうっていう感じで、いつもマレッコは返事は一番遅いですけどね、いつも
仲がいいという、
そうですね、本当に仲がいいっていう感じなんですけども、はい、そんな感じで、今後にも期待したいなと思います。はい、以上マレッコさんでした。
はい、次はミュータブルインストゥルメンツの、Q&A です、こちらをご覧ください。ミュータブルのモジュールの人気は高いですよね。理由は何だと思いますか？他と違うデザインやアプローチの違いについて教えてください。ミュータブルインストゥルメンツはデジタルモジュールの制作の先駆けだったんです。今まで市場になかった合成テクニック、グラニュラー申請、物理モデリングなどを可能にしたという点で注目されました。それから、どこかフレッシュな部分があったのかもしれません。私はモジュラー申請の歴史について特段の情熱があったわけでもなく、ブックラについても誰かが私のやり方をその対比として挙げたことで知ったし、ポートの制作を頼まれたことで知ったフォーマットもありました。ゼロからデザインしたものも多く、過去に開発されていったものの再発明もしました。無知が功を奏したんです。モジュールをデザインする際、バランス感やりすぎないという点に気をつけています。私自身、ハイエンドやオーバースペックな機材に対するフェティッシュはなく、手の届く価格帯に収めることができています。単純な32ビットマイクロコントローラーで済ませるということに、ちょっとしたプライドさえ感じています。ただ、ケチっているわけではなく、アルゴリズムのクオリティとシンプルに収めて故障も少なく見た目も良くて、組み立てのしっかりした製品を作っています。ここ最近のオープンソースという流れも重要でした。私のモジュールはソフトウェアとしても手に入るし、卓上シンセのプラグインオシレーターとしても配布しているので、定番になりつつあるのかもしれないです。モジュールの開発をしていて、最も満たされる瞬間ありますか？多様な視点や技術がかかってくるのが醍醐味です。音だけでなく、操作性に関する美的感覚、これについてはパネルデザインをしてくれている UX デザイナーのハネスと相談しながら行っているんだけど、それからコードを書く技術、ハードウェアのデザイン、製造や流通などビジネスに関わる全般のこと、自分の作ったモジュールから生まれる音楽を聴いて、人々の手に渡った後に命を吹き込まれるのを見る喜びもあります。他のエンジニア職にはない作家性というのも魅力です。他にエンジニア職で作家性が見られる仕事といったら、インディーズゲーム作家くらいかな。この対比はちょっと面白いです。オーディオビジュアルを共通点とするおもちゃあるいはゲームで学習曲線があって、ユーザーのスキルによって面白いことができるという点でよく似ています。2020年はコロナの影響を受けましたか？コロナ以降の世界はモジュラー業界にどんな影響を与えると思いますか？製造プロセスを大手の外注先に一括したのが正解でした。製造から検品まで一貫した品質管理が可能で、自社のスタッフやインフラは最小限に留められています。4から6ヶ月先を見越して製造を行っているので、調整を行うマージンも少しありました。危機的な状況や予想外の進展でいくつか対応を迫られました。春、アジアの製造元で遅れが出て、フランスがロックダウンに入った時点で外注先に注文を一時的に断られたり、配送業者の運用が少し変更になったり、カスタマーセンターのスタッフが子供の世話や病気で休みを取ることもありました。一番大変だったのは、ロックダウンの影響で急増して予想外の需要に対応することでした。パンデミックがどういう進展をたどるか未知の状況で、そして政治や経済がどうなるかも読めない中で、
モジュラーの未来がどうなるか語るのは難しいですね。
はい、ミュータブルインストゥルメンツの Q&A ですけれども、ミュータブルといえば、特徴はどんなメーカーって言いますかね。
そうですね、ミュータブルは、他のですね、今回、そのビデオでインタビューしたメイクノイズとか、4MS とかマレッコとかよりはちょっとできた時期が遅くて、多分メイクノイズとかは2007、8年ぐらいから始めて、でミュータブルは多分うちができるちょっとぐらい前だから2012年とか2013年ぐらいから、始めたような感じですね。で、うちもクロックフェイスとして、ミュータブルにインタビューしたことがあるんですけど、その時にも確か言ってたんですけど、自分も、ね、モジュラーを始めて1年ぐらいでもうリリースを始めたっていうようなことを言ってて、で、何がミュータブルすごい、めちゃくちゃ人気があるメーカーなんですけど、今1、2を争うようなメーカーなんですけど、何が新しかったかっていうと、やっぱりデジタルをすごいある意味でちょっとソフトっぽいような、ソフトウェアのシンセのようななんか匂いもするんだけれど、やっぱりモジュラーとしてのすごい面白さが詰まっていて、で、ノブとか結構大きいんですよね。で結構触りやすくて、そのギチギチに詰めてもうすごい機能満載ですみたいなのとはちょっと醸し出す世界が違うかなみたいな部分もあったりとか、すごいやっぱり印象深いメーカーですよね。でやっぱり一人でやってるんで、基本的に。でその製造はさっきも言ったように外注とかなんで、すごいやっぱ個人の世界観が出てるような、オープンソースにするとかもそうですし、もともとエミリーは結構アカデミックな仕事とかも、確か言語処理とかそういう専門的なバックグラウンドを持ってて、結構そういうプログラミングのそういう音声認識とかの仕事もしてたはずですけど、そういういろいろなものを使ってすごいモジュールを作ってて、すごいやっぱ斬新だったと思います。
デジタルの
そうですね、デジタルでこれだけ面白いことできるよっていうのはかなりミュータブルが見せてくれたような気はします。
どうですかね、皆さん。
そうですね、オシレータープラッツブレイズ、あと、リングスもオシレーター、あとレゾネーターで、ああいう多種のアルゴリズムを持ったそのオシレーターそのものの響き、アナログオシレーターそのものの響きっていうのとはちょっとまた違う世界観を持っていて、でそのデジタルにしか出せない音っていうのもやはり存在するんですよね。でそこにきちんとこう抽出する要素がまず良かったですし、でプラスアルファしてそのデジタルオシレーター、デジタルシンセだけれどもきちんと他のモジュールで全部アナログコントロール CV コントロールできるって、そこがそのミュータブルのデジタルモジュールのすごく綺麗なよくできているところだなっていう、それは使う人のこととか、あとシンセサイズの構造をきちんと考えている、その上で作っているんだなっていうのはやはり感じるところがありますね。
デジタルでも結構もっとインタビューでも言ってましたけど、詰め込みすぎないっていうふうに言ってたし、デジタルってすごい液晶の画面がついてエンコーダーをぐるぐる回してメニューを選んでっていうデザインの仕方もできるんですけど、そういうことはやらないんですよ。そういう意味ではやっぱりバランスはすごい考えてるんだろうな。
UX を結構大事にしていて、
そうですね、
信念を感じますね。
そうどうしてもデジタルモジュールだと使い方に迷ってしまう時があって、ミュータブルのモジュールは触ってもすぐに触れるんですよね、誰でもすぐに触れるっていう、それがやっぱりモジュラーシンセ、アナログシンセサイザー、シンセサイザー全体において結構醍醐味かなと思う要素もあって、
だけど深いみたいなね。
そう、中に入っている考え方、そのシンセサイズの構造そのものはすごい深い、たくさん音の追求のしがいがあるって、出てくる音が本当に広いんですよね。反応が毎回毎回違くて、それがやっぱり面白いところだなと私は思ってますね。
でも あれですよね、もう開発は2019年の年末で
ちょっとそうですね。
もう
切ないことを
ストップしたって言ってました、インタビューで言ってましたけど、そうですね。なんでまあだんだんフェードアウトしていっちゃうのかなっていう。
それまでにどんだけのものを仕込んでたかって
まあそうですよね。まだ全部は出てない
だろうから、きっと。
そうですね。まあちょっと楽しみですよね。
そうですね。なんでまあ最近もベイルズバージョンアップしたりとかもあったし、
エミリーがよく言ってるのはなんだっけ、結構前の今出てるのは自分の頭の前の昔何年か前のものだって言ってたんでまあそういう意味ではもうちょっと楽しめるのかなと思いますけど、
考えが進んでるので、もうとても楽しめるものが後からどんどん出てくるっていう、なかなか面白いメーカーですよね。
あとミュータブルフォーラムでやっぱりいろいろ自社製品だけの話題じゃなくて他社も含めて結構いろんなディスカッションが真冬ぐらいとはまた違う感じで、
フォーラムが充実してるよね。
すごい充実してて、それこそオープンソースを生かして誰かがそのファームウェアをちょっと変えてみたの作ったぜみたいなのを紹介してて、それをみんなが使ったり、逆にこうしたいんだけどどこをいじればいいかなって言ったらエミリーが直接そのソースはここら辺をいじるといいよとか教えてくれてたりで、
確かにオープンソースソフトウェアのコミュニティの住人なんだろうなっていう印象ありますね。
多分そのメーカー始める前から、アカデミックの世界も結構そういうプログラムってオープンソースの世界だし、まあそれは自分でエミリーが言ってたんだけど、そういうやっぱりカルチャーにいたからみたいなことはよく言って、まあだからそのユーロラック始める前から彼女はシンセをね DIY の作ってて、だからそこからもうフォーラムあったから、そういう意味ではすごいコミュニティはもう長く続いてるんですよね。だからもしこれからなんか全然別のことをやるとしてもなんか楽しみだなっていうか、本当にでも全然違うことをやるかもしれないですけど彼女の場合は。
はい、ではミュータブルインストゥルメントでした。はい、次のインタビューはアーティストのインタビューになります。アンソニー・バルディノさんのインタビューです。彼は、モジュラーシンセを使った、アーティストなんですけれども、知られているところでいうと、クリストファー・ノーランの新しい映画の、テネットの、サウンドを担当していたりとか、あと、有名なラッパートラビス・スコットのリミックスを、やっていたりとか、あとは、グラニュラーのソフトウェア申請、プラグインなんかの、仕事をしていたり、
プリセットをいっぱい作った
サウンドデザイナーとしても著名な方です。
そうですね。じゃあアンソニーさんについては、リチャード・ディバインなんかとも一緒に活発に、活動していったりとか、一応活躍されていて、アルバムもすべてねモジュラーを使って作っているとか、そこら辺の話がインタビューの中で聞けると思うんですけども、その具体的にインタビューを実際にしたロベルトに少し案内してもらいます。
If you're mainly into movie score composition and melodic, glitchy kind of IDM, I strongly suggest you to listen carefully to this very interesting interview with Anthony Baldino.
じゃあご覧ください。
Hello everyone and welcome back to TFoM2020 online interview. We have today Anthony Baldino with us. Hello Anthony, how are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you. Everything is fine. We are very happy to have you with us today. For the one who don't know Anthony yet, he is a very famous sound designer who works mainly into the film composing and scores. Is that correct, Anthony?
Yeah, that and a lot of movie trailers as well. So much to talk about. I guess the most recent project I worked on was Tenet, doing synths and sound design for that score with Ludwig Göransson, and also worked on the movie Venom with him, doing a ton of synths, doing some really, really abrasive synths and sound design, which is a ton of fun for me. The last big thing I did was a remix for Travis Scott for Uncut Gems. And then there's a bunch of library work and sound design that's also a ton of fun and keeps me busy. I did a bunch of presets with Richard Devine. We were just talking about him for Portal, which is an awesome granular plugin. Did a bunch of work with Isotope. Just always happy and excited to work on cool stuff.
I want to talk about a little bit about your release that happened like almost 1 year ago, 12/22.
Yeah.
How was the response of the public to your record?
It did get a really good response, which meant a lot to me, and had a lot of friends help support it. And yeah, so that record was, it's an all modular synth record, and it kind of started out, the approach was going to be trying to do it just performance based. So like 0 to no editing in the box. And so the first half was all, I'd like make the craziest patch I could and then kind of deconstruct it performance wise and kind of generate an arc. And that would be the shape of the song or track. And then I kind of accidentally found this very emotional patch, and it just reminded me of the way I used to make music back in the day before I had any hardware synths, which is all in the box and just kind of like mangling stuff and arranging it in Logic. And so I kind of wanted to go back a little bit to that. And so, yeah, it shifted to just harvesting all of my sequences and all my drum sounds from my modular system, and then running it back and reprocessing all of it. And then so it's kind of seamless mix of the two different approaches, which I was super happy about.
Is there any other release planned for the near future?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple tracks in the works. So far. I think like a lot of artists and musicians this year, it's been really hard to sit down and write, and the music I have done this year has all been leaning towards the ambient side of things. Just emotionally, that's all I have. A weird year for writing music, but yes, release in the works.
If you could describe your music, how would you describe it?
It's really rooted in IDM with some cinematic features as well.
Yeah.
I guess I've always tried to keep my music kind of merging emotional and heavy sound design all the time. So it bridges both my world, not like I don't want to say my work music, because all music is good and fun for me, but like the cinematic side of things, the emotional side, and the IDM stuff.
I listened also to the Data Cult Audio event and was really nice set. There was a lot of atmospheres with pads and everything really seems like coming out directly from a movie. So how do you find this balance between, crazy glitch IDM side and this softer, let's say, cinematic side in your music?
That's a good question. I feel like the ambient parts and the droney cinematic stuff creates a space or a world that all the glitchy stuff can live in. I'm not trying to make it background music per se, but like gives it this, just a space to live in. And then I always tend to like kind of live sample those ambient bits into my drum patches and make it part of the sequence. So, having some glitch elements that are derived from all my harmonic content makes a really nice bridge and connects those two, which I try and do as much as possible.
In weird time we're living right now, where do you find inspiration for your music, for example?
During these times, I've been so nostalgic. So I've been reaching back for my favorite records from like early 2000s. I've been going back to all those old records, and like it puts me in this place of where I was when I first heard them, and I guess that's where I'm trying to find inspiration from, is like recreating that original excitement to do electronic music.
You were talking about before sampling the modular and then processing into the box let's say.
Yeah.
Would you like talk a bit about this kind of process? How do you work with sample?
Yeah, so I make a whole bunch of drum patterns on my modular, and then multi-track all that into my DAW, and then kind of pick and choose the best bits and edit them so they, like, all the best parts fit together, and that kind of creates a foundation for the track. And then, I'd send that back through Clouds or Morphogene or the ZDSP and reprocess everything. So it's like making new content from existing content. So there's a direct correlation. So it already sounds like it's part of the same track. And then just aligning that on the grid and Logic or Pro Tools. And
talking about your system, which are the kind of modules you can't live without, Anthony?
Such a difficult question. For me personally, and in the last couple of years, L1 has this new VCA out, their quad VCA with an exponential switch. My kick drums always are DPO being shaped by maths, but these new L1 VCAs are so punchy. And I'm just such a sucker for really big kick drums and I really couldn't live without my tip-top circadian rhythms. I see that one there.
Yeah.
It's like the brain for my whole system, and helps me think compositionally, and also is my main tool for performance.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about your live rig.
Yeah.
Is it like sample based, or is more of a traditional kind of synthesizer, so VCO, VCA filter, and so on?
It's 50-50. I have, my kick and my snare are always DPO. And then my hats will usually be like braids. And then a lot of my melodic stuff is braids. I do like my record, so I want to be able to perform a couple like live remixes of that, and that's what I'll use the Morphogenes for. And I also have the ER301, which I'll use for drums and pads. Yeah, and then I have a lot of effects stuff. I'm using the Chronoblob, Echophone, Reverb, Black Hole DSP from Erica Synths, and Clouds is in there too.
Interesting. Like if you could have the chance to invent your own signature model, what would it be?
It would probably be another granular module.
Granular module, okay.
Yeah, because I just love the granular stuff so much. Yeah, I don't know, there's just so much you can do with it, and it gets really gnarly sounding, or even awesome for ambient stuff. But that, or if there was a module that married the circadian rhythms and Make Noise Renee, my life would be made. Like I have the Eloquencer, which I really, really like for if I'm doing more compositional based stuff or film stuff. But the tip-top circadian rhythms just lets me perform more. It's more tactile and hands-on.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. And I wish I had some CV control along with that. That wasn't as deep as the Eloquencer, but you can't have it all.
One very last question, Anthony. If you could give any advice to people who want to start their Aerorack journey, what would it be?
Just buy everything. No. I think my advice would be, whatever your first modules you get, don't read the manual. Just rack them up and start playing. Only until you really have to, until you're really lost, like then reach for the manual. But there's so much to be found, both about the module itself and your own personal tastes and musical curiosities that you benefit without the manual. So
yes, so sometimes getting lost into the into the module probably is the best way to find happy accidents, right?
Totally.
Yeah. That's interesting point of view, actually. But like with the most modern and recent module is a bit maybe more complicated, this kind of approach, since we have like, you know, a lot of menu diving or, you know, button combination and so on. So
definitely. Yeah. I mean, that, I guess that advice I gave worked like 6 or 7 years ago. But yeah, nowadays, like you're saying, that the button combinations, like I love the Morphogene, but that is one manual that I keep handy all the time because like I just so
I always have the cheat sheet on my side when I use Morphogene because it's
totally
yeah
that and like the 301 I mean everything, and like with all the new customizable firmwares with the Qubit nebulae, like it's hard to remember how everything how like the submenus and different modes of operation work.
This was the last question, Anthony, so thank you so much for being with us today. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and we hope to have you with us next year live at TFoM 2021.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
はい、アンソニー・バルディノさんのインタビューでした。そうですね、制作手法の秘話とか、なんかいろんな発想が伺えたですね。
いろいろ、はい、全部包み隠さずじゃないですけど、いろんな具体的なモジュールの名前もいっぱい出てきたし、いろいろみんなも持ってるモジュール多かったと思うんで、なるほどなと思うところもあったと思いますし、ぜひですね、みんなどれも有名なモジュールばっかりですんでね、皆さんもちょっと参考にしてみていただければと思います。Any point?
Yeah, one thing I found very interesting and somehow fun is this suggestion Anthony gave us about
for beginners.
Is that for beginners?
Advice.
And is this very, how to say, instinctive approach to the modular? So just don't read the manual and start to patch and discover the model on your own.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Good advice.
I think it's a good point because looking at modular systems or TFoM, it can be quite overwhelming or daunting for beginners. Like, I need to be some super geek or engineer or
nerd,
part of this nerd scene. But actually, why we have TFoM and why we love to play with modular is anybody can just plug cables in and explore, try making sounds, and actually often it's doing the wrong thing with modules or connecting things together that you wouldn't normally expect to do is where a lot of the fun and the surprising accidents happen. So you don't need to be an expert or to understand everything, you can just try.
そうですね。そうですね。だからモジュラーはとにかくとにかくつないでみて、なんか理屈が分かんないと難しいんじゃないかとか、初心者の人たちはTFoM来たりしてもね、なかなかどっから手つけていいのか分かんないみたいなことはあるんですけど、みんな初めはそうなんで、どんどん突っ込んでいじって、ここつねったらこうなるのか、ここ回したらこうなるのか、これじゃ音出ないのかっていうのを自分で実感しながら独学で見つけていくのが大事だって言ってた、アンソニーさんの言葉は特に興味深かったなっていうことで、TFoMにもね、そういう部分では共通する部分っていうか、みんな来てもらってどんどんいじってみてもらって面白さをね体験してもらえたらなと思うんですけれども、そうですね、とても面白いいいアドバイスだったと思います。はい、というわけで、
はい、ではアンソニー・バルディノさんのインタビューでした。
はい、ありがとうございました。
はい、それでは次は、また引き続きアーティストのインタビューでリチャード・ディバインになります。リチャード・ディバインさんは、東京フェスティバルモジュラーでも何回も、ライブで、出演してくださっていますと。で、今回インタビューをするにあたって、アーティストのインタビューをするのであればぜひお願いしたいということで、お願いしましたというところですね。
そうですね、リチャード・ディバインさんは言うまでもなく、サウンドデザイナーとしても映画のSFX の音とかですね、そういうのでも有名な方ですけども、モジュラーシンセを使っている方としても、世界的にも有名な方で、たくさんの、インスタとかのポストも有名なのでご覧になっている方もあると思うんですけども、今回、インタビューまた同じくロベルトにしてもらったんで、 How was that?
Yeah, this short cut-up of interview you're going to see of Richard Devine is part of a longer 1-hour interview that I strongly suggest you to see later on our Facebook TFoM page and YouTube channel. And it's a very in-depth technical talking about the use he made about sample and samplers and how he created this incredibly complicated glitch kind of music we all know about Richard Devine.
はい、それでは、早速ですけどもインタビューをご覧ください。
はい。
Hello everyone and welcome to TFoM2020 ONLINE. Today we have the pleasure to have with us Richard Devine. So how are you doing, Richard?
I'm doing well, as good as it can be.
Yeah, for the one who doesn't know who Richard Devine is like probably one of the most famous contemporary sound designers. His works range from applications, sound pack for VST, TV advertisement. What else, Richard? Help me out.
Virtual reality, let's see here, sound design for electric cars, digital analog synthesizers to designing sounds for cameras in cars. Like one of the most recent projects I finished up was really fun was Cyberpunk 2077 for CD Projekt Red. So I did a lot of work on that video game. I did a ton of really crazy like tracks, hundreds of patches I did and loops and sounds I did for that game, but it came out really, really awesome. Right after that, I did Apex Station patches for Richard James and innovation on the on his new synth. Yeah, just like you said, I do all kinds of stuff whether it relates to like synthesis, sound design, or just sound design in general. And
talking about your latest project, you came out with a new music release, Sidestick. How you came out with the idea of making like an acid record during this period?
The record, it happened because of COVID. Just before that point, I had prepared this new live set. These tracks were never meant to ever be released. These were just going to be new material that I was just playing around with. I wanted to try something different. I was like, you know what, this year, 2020, I've had this strange inclination to go back and try acid music. And so it was like, what would it sound like if I were to make an acid record today, but using slightly different gear and a different mindset? I wanted to just see what would happen. It was an experiment just for myself. And I was like, what if I built a live set? And usually when I test new things out, I test them out live before I commit to them to studio recordings. It's a great way to get user feedback from your fans or from people that are hearing it for the first time. So that was what my original plans were. Unfortunately, I only got to play 2 sets of that show. Of course, none of these people knew any of the songs. No one had ever heard any of this music before. So it's the first time they were hearing this stuff live. I was like, wow, these 2 shows, the response was so positive for these acid tracks. A couple months went by, the whole COVID thing hit. My friend Surachai messaged me. He's like, you know what are you going to do with those acid tracks? Are you going to do anything with them? I was like, yeah, I guess no one's going to hear these, until I start playing shows again, and who knows when that'll be. So Surachai suggested, why don't we release it just as an experiment? Why don't we release it as a live acid record? So what I did is I set the whole setup again in here in my studio, and then what I did is I just multi-tracked live the whole 15-minute live show, whatever. It was originally an hour, but I tried to cut everything down as much as I could from that 1-hour set down to about a good solid 46 minutes, and that's what the Sidestick EP became.
I wanted to ask you another question, Richard. This is a bit more technical. It's about your live system. How different is to work with like one system focused on samples compared to have a more regular kind of synthesizers?
Sure. Yeah. I made that decision to move to a smaller system like last year, just because it was killing my body to carry around my 12U or at some point when I was playing all these shows and festivals, I was realizing that a lot of the people didn't care if I was using real oscillators or real complex oscillators or whatever it was. People just wanted to experience it, have a really good experience. And I was thinking really what I should be focusing in on, the most important aspect is musically what the people are hearing and trying to give them the best, most interesting sonic experience possible. And so I kind of rethought my setup. I was like, well, how could I do that? How could I scale things down smaller, but still have lots of flexibility and complexity? But and the other thing that I was having a problem with was being able to change to a whole new set of sounds very quickly. Now, when I was using my older system, I was spending a lot of time in my headphones, like repitching things, resetting up oscillators before I bring the next part in. So I was spending a lot of time when should have been performing. I was spending more time making sure everything was working and setting up stuff for the next part that was going to play. And I was like, I need to cut that part down to where I'm focusing more on the performance and performing the music and performing the stuff in real time rather than trying to prepare everything that was happening before. So I was like, well, how could I do that but still have the ability to use CV and gate, control voltages and have all this other crazy stuff happening? So I was like, well, I could just sample all of my material that I create here on my bigger systems and then, edit everything up and then trigger all that now I have 2 bitboxes, V2 bitbox 1010s, and then the ER301 are probably like the main meat of the show now, and they're all filled with stuff. Like my STS has probably like 32 gigabytes of tens of thousands of samples that I've cut up and used, thousands of percussion hits, granular things, and my ER301's maxed out as well with all kinds of crazy stuff I've made. And it was a different way of thinking about things, but I had to think, well, I can still make this sound organic. It doesn't have to sound like samples. So I use a lot of stuff that's basically a combination of crazy effects processing, mangling with sample manipulation. And that's basically where I've shifted my live setup recently, because I've wanted more flexibility. I wanted to be able to play a wider variety of sounds, and I wanted to be able to do faster changes between songs so I could play more songs in a shorter amount of time. So the end result would be a more interesting live show, but not having to bring out a huge setup, So I rethought things. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the most important thing should be is what people hear, no matter how you get to that result, whether you use a big Buchla system or an Electron Digitone or whatever that piece of gear is, how big or small it is, it shouldn't really matter. It's whatever you make with that stuff that people can experience. I think that's the most important thing. So that really was kind of made me change my focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, how different is to compose a song with sample compared to a song with synthesizers?
I have to think about the song structure differently, but with the samplers, you can do things now in sections. You can change things drastically. So a lot of that is tricks I've learned with the samplers, like using the ER301 or the bitboxes. Like I take a bass line, I have single hits happening, right? So each bass line, it starts out and it changes. Each one's different, like different filters. And then over time, maybe it opens up and then it turns into something completely crazy, right? You're hearing them, but they're always different. It could be a 5-minute long file that I've recorded here, and then maybe there's some processing and stuff happening on top of that. So you're only going to hear that one sample play in the part only one time in the track. As each marker moving through the track, and each part that I've created is separated in its own sort of like stem in a way, but it's all split up with splice markers, and I can either travel through them progressively through time, and then you hear all those parts changing at the same time. I sometimes will have them, there's parts where I have like little or like DSP things, stuff that I've created, or weird like glitchy effects things, where I set up markers where it'll play at random positions throughout like a 5-6 minute piece, so you never hear the same thing hitting twice. And then I may have that getting granularly reorganized or scrambled. So there's lots of creative ways of creating organic complexity with samples. And it also is a lot of ear fine tuning too, because like my I try to make it not sound like it's sampled at all, because it's all synthesis. It's all synthesis that I've sampled. So I'm using everything that I've synthesized with my modular here. So it has this sound quality already that sounds really organic and kind of in a weird place to begin with. So that to me has been like a really interesting combination.
And talking about strictly module, Richard, which are the type of modules you can live without? We talked before about samples, so I guess like sampler play main roles in your actual setup, I guess.
Yeah, I would say the ER301. I've got so many custom units I've designed for that. I put a lot of time into that module because it can do so many crazy things with it. And that plays such a huge part in my live show. I would say it's probably one of the most important modules in my setup. My other favorite would be, I would say right now, is like the Bitbox. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking just strictly like live utility-based things, I'd say the ER301 is still my favorite module, because you could just create your own customized unit patches and containers that really, really worked exactly the way you want. Other recent favorite module I got, although it's huge, is Paul Schreiber's E520 Hyperion processor. Effects processor. That's got some great spectral processing algorithms, and he really did a fantastic job on that module. I really got to say that it's one of my favorite new effects modules that's come out in a long time, as far as really radically different stuff. And
for example, if you could invent like your very signature module, what it would be, Richard?
I think it'd be a drum module of some sort. Like, you know what, my dream would be to have something like the Nord Drum 2, but like something that incorporates lots of different synthesis methods, additive, like I said, additive, subtractive, physical modeling, FM synthesis, like you can do FM based synthesis also in the Nord Drum. Like, but if I had that and like even a smaller footprint, that would be incredible. And then be able to recall and store those settings, and then maybe you have like 6 or 8 knobs or all of the performance controls. That to me would be an ultimate dream to have.
One very last question, Richard. Which is your advice for people who want to start the journey into the Eurorack world?
When I started out in modular synthesis, there was no Eurorack stuff. Back in the early 90s, when I first bought my ARP 2600, I bought a complete system, which taught me all the basic fundamentals of synthesis. So that was a great way to get in. And I tell a lot of people, you know, if you really want to get a grasp on things, like maybe look at getting like a make noise shared system or a complete system that is already pre-configured for you. It's a lot. I think a lot of people are scared when they get into Eurorack that they have a really hard time deciding what goes in their case. They're like, well, I don't even know what I want to do. Do I want to make this thing or that thing? But if you don't have much experience with synthesis, I think it's a better idea to buy a complete system that's already has the key components, so you can get a basic understanding of first, like, oh, what does this oscillator do? Oh, I can pitch the oscillator up and down, I can cross modulate it into another oscillator and stuff like that. So I tell people the best way to do that is to get a system that has all that put together. Then it makes more sense how all the other parts are supposed to play together with that module or that sound source or that VCO. It's like, it just teaches you these things that you may not learn if you buy all these random things and try to figure things out in a different order. I think for me, at least, that's how it worked. I bought a complete system first and I learned the basics. And that really, really helped me, because then I had that knowledge as my foundation, and I was able to build from that point, from that platform. That would be my approach, is to get an all-in-one system and try that first and learn the basics before you spread out and buy a case of other stuff. Make sure you get the basic understanding first and then build from that point. Figure out where you want to go after that, you know, whether you want, you have to ask the question of like, what do I want this instrument to do in my music? Yeah, I would go with just an all-in-one system if it were me.
All right. Thank you so much for this nice chat and for all of this precious suggestion you gave us. And we hope to have you with us next year to TFoM 2021, hopefully. Again, thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay. Take care, Richard. Bye-bye. Thank you.
はい、リチャード・ディバインさんのインタビューでした。彼のアーティストとしての、歴史から、音楽制作、また今に至るまでのいろいろな、変遷が、分かって結構面白かったかなと思っています。そうですね。どうでしょうね。
そうですね、すごく技術的な話とか突っ込んだ話とか、僕らにとってはとても興味深い話だったんですけど、初めてビギナーの方とかまだモジュラ知らない方にはちょっと難しいかなっていうところもあったかと思うんですけど、How was that? It's very difficult, technical talking. So how do you think that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, it shows that you can be like really deeply into the technical side, but he also suggests for beginners.
Yeah, exactly. One things I wish I knew before starting Modular is knowing my direction, and as Richard Devine suggested, is to start maybe small with a small case with all the basics, learn the instrument, and then find your own way in the music and style you want to make. Actually, this is going to save you a lot of money and time, and yeah, so I think this is probably one of the most precious suggestion I ever received in the modular in my modular journey.
Yeah. So next year maybe we can try to have him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, first time he came, I remember his performance in Super Deluxe 2015, was it?
Oh yeah, 15.
I think.
Yeah.
It was very abstract, evocative, exciting performance. It was really amazing.
I remember.
Then two times he came since then, they were very different style, much more rhythmic and beats, quite different. If you've ever seen Richard Devine in his studio doing things, and he has this always such massive system and all the new modules, but of course when he travels, as he talked about, needing something more compact, again that just shows the flexibility of how you can get a lot out of a small system.
Yeah. そうですね。そんな感じでしょうか。
はい、そうですね。
Is that enough for Richard? Okay. では、これでリチャードのインタビューのコーナーを終わりたいと思います。
次は、東京フェスティバルモジュラーのヒストリーについて、ご覧ください。 はい、以上ご覧いただいたのは TFoM のヒストリーでした。
はい。そうですね、2013年から今年で8回目になるはずだったんですけども、いろいろ変遷がありました。最初はスーパーデラックスで一つの会場で全部ライブも展示もやってましたけれども、そういうのを何回か経てリチャード・ディバインも迎えるようになって、それで会場がレッドブルに変わって、2年ぐらい 2 years for Red Bull we used、we tried also KFOM 2015で、そういう歴史もあって今ここまで来て、でおかげさまで毎年だんだん人も集まるようになって大きくなってきて、集まるスポンサーの方々も入れ替わりでだんだん38社とか日本国内も含めてですけど、参加してもらえるようになって、盛り上がってきてますけども、やはり TFoM は海外のスポンサーも迎えて展示してもらったり、海外のアーティストに演奏してもらったりで、それを集まったみんなとシェアしてクラブの中で大きい踊りで体験したり、開発者と直接話したりとかですね、そういう様子で味わってもらうのが、TFoM なんで、来年はですね、なんとかぜひそういった、イベントが無事開催できて、TFoM のハブとしての役割がですね、果たせたらなと思っております。はい。で、今回、約6組のインタビュー、そして2時間半ぐらい長々とお付き合いいただいたわけなんですけれども、このビデオ実はダイジェストで編集されてますので、みんな10分ぐらいに短くなってますけれども、元は30分とかリチャード・ディバインに至っては1時間ぐらい話してたりもします。でそれは全部字幕もつけてですね、この後イベントの後に私たちの、YouTube のチャンネルで、公開していきたいと思いますので、ぜひそちらもチェックしていただけたらなと思います。はい。Any message for fun?
Yeah, well, thanks for watching. And normally we have many live performances as well. So we're missing that this year in TFoM, but our friends in Kansai are making that up for us with a big KFOM next weekend with many live performances, and that will be streaming. So please tune in to that.
Yeah, we know that this year has been difficult and strange for everyone, but for sure next 2021 TFoM will be awesome as always. Thank you.
そうですね、今デーブが触れてくれましたけども、来週の週末金曜日と土曜日、11月の20日と21日になりますけれども、関西の方で、KFoM、関西のフェスティバル・オブ・モジュラーが開催されます。関西の人たちにはぜひモジュラーフェスティバルやってほしいということでずっと煽っていたんですけれども、それがやっと成就したら、今年僕らがやらない時にですね、関西の方では展示会もやりますし、ライブもやりますし、ワークショップもあるということで、もう全部モジュラーフェスティバルらしいイベントが2日間にわたってやります。僕やデイブなんかも、あちらでも演奏しますので、ぜひですねそちらの方で皆さん集まっていただけたらなと思います。はい、何か竹内君のメッセージあれば。
はい、長い時間になりましたけれども、そうですね。このメンバーで、1年間かけて準備しているフェスティバルですので、来年どういった形になるか、またちょっと進化した形になると思いますけれども、応援いただけたらと思います。あとは最後に YouTube の、そうですね、いいねと登録の方よかったらお願いします。
そうですね。あと来月も、同じように毎月の中旬にですね、TFoM の、オンライン番組でミーティングオブモジュラーという番組をやっておりますので、そちらでまたお会いしたいと思います。また TFoM が来年無事に開催できることを祈ってまたお会いしましょう。ありがとうございました。
はい、本当の最後になりますけれども、スペインのエンドルフィンからアーティストでもある、ジュリア・ボンダーさんのライブ動画の方をエクスクルーシブでいただいているので、こちらよかったらご覧ください。
はい、素晴らしい景色の中で演奏してます。
Hi, this is Moritz from ENDORPHIN.ES in Barcelona. Welcome to the virtual version of Tokyo Festival of Modular. Unfortunately, we cannot be with you this year in person for obvious reasons. And I don't want to talk about Corona at all. ENDORPHIN.ES is all about happiness. Knowing that there are thousands of artists out there that are performing music and creating new ideas using our gear makes us happy. And this is what drives us. Making people happy makes endorphins happy. So, for happiness reasons, we released 2 new modules this year. It's the Queen of Pentacles drum module, based on the idea of Roland 909, and the running order trigger sequencer for polymetric and polyrhythmic instant fun. Patterns programmed SH101 style, 2 tracks, very nice. The cockpit, the stereo mixer with sidechain ducking, received an update and is just out about now, and will be accompanied by an expander very soon. And we are working very hard to finish the ground control sequencer. It is a lot of work and we want it to be as perfect as possible at the release date. Then there are a few other smaller projects that are more or less around the corner. So maybe the one or other surprise for you soon. There is nothing more to say than enjoy the show. There will be 2 other videos coming up from Endorphins. One is a product video produced by Rock On Shibuya, and the other one is a live set by the fantastic Julia Bondar. So have fun, be happy, create music. Thank you very much for having us. Goodbye.
Hey folks, it's Andrew Kilpatrick. Thanks to the Tokyo Festival of Modular for having us. Today I'd like to present our latest product called Radiator. Radiator is a laser synthesizer. You can generate beautiful laser light show displays directly from the built-in control surface. You can connect it to your modular synth, and you can control it through MIDI. It outputs ILDA and LaserCube compatible laser outputs, and it also has an HDMI video output, so you can use it as a video synthesizer as well. Radiator was funded as part of a Kickstarter project, and we are happy to announce that we've now shipped all the Kickstarter units and are taking orders. Please check out our videos, visit our website, and send us email if you have any questions. Thanks very much, and hope you enjoy the festival.
This is the Radiator Laser Synthesizer. It's a real-time laser abstract performance console. It's self-contained, no sequencing, no software. The Radiator has a DB25 connector for directly controlling ILDA standard laser projectors. It also supports EtherDream and LaserDock DACs. In environments where laser projection is not safe or practical, the Radiator has a laser raster engine that re-renders laser content to video in real time and outputs it as 60 frames per second, 24-bit 1080p video. The Radiator has dual shape generators with hundreds of base shapes and built-in animations. The shape generators can be summed together to create traditional Lissajous and cycloid patterns, or decoupled to create incredibly complex single projector abstracts. The shape generators also have a built-in sync feature to simplify finding harmonic relationships. The Radiator has 3 general-purpose low-frequency oscillators, each capable of outputting sine, triangle, ramp, square, or exponential waveforms. LFOs can be routed to any control in a one-to-many configuration. Multiple LFOs can be stacked to a single control, and LFOs can be used for FM and AM modulation of other LFOs.
Hi, it's Radek here. I'm connecting today from Poland, where I'm in the middle of nowhere in my temporary COVID studio, and I was sent kindly by Looptrotter these 2 beautiful outboard devices. Looptrotter is a company from Warsaw, also from Poland, and they sent these 2 for demo, and I'm testing them with a variety of modular and electronic content. So this is Saturate 24. It's a summing box and saturation device, 8 channels of saturation with the magic button that does magic to the mixes. And then on insert I have Emperor limiter, which is really nice limiter, compressor and coloring box, and it's on the insert, so it really brings the lovely saturation from Saturate, and also it has a drive. It's easy to use, and they both are really cool. So what I'll do in the longer video, I'll show you how I'm using them in sound design, in mixing, and tracking the content I'm producing. So yeah, it's really exciting. They are really cool devices, and hope you enjoy it. Cheers!